I've come up with a name for our show when the three of us get together, okay? It's going to be called Michael and the Gabriels. Does that work for you?
I like that.
And it has a spiritual significance, too, and we need all the archangel help we can get.
Sounds like that some BBC show about the Corfu. What's
well,
that
you're the lead, and we're your pips. Okay. So today we're going to dive into 5G. We get lots of questions and comments and stuff from 5G, and Douglas has written so much material from both our Neo-Anthroposophy site and on our media site, aimfortruth.org. So we are going to look at 5G, and Michael McKibben is certainly an expert. So where do we start?
Well, I'm going to start by giving a shout out to David A. David A., who sends us stuff on 5G all the time, fighting the battle, forefront, worldwide. The whole world is fighting the battle against 5G. And we're going to tell you, as we have before, about not only the recent history of it, but what it's really all about. And that's what we're going to get to in a minute. So, as you know, I like to lay a big backdrop behind us before we then could get into some sweeping pictures. So, the backdrop is very simple. Let me lay out the plan at this point. And let me also clear up something that many of our listeners have asked about. Why is Trump saying move forward with 5G? He didn't. He did not do that. In fact, he did the exact opposite of that.
So, Douglas.
Yes.
You did not mention your experience here because you're not talking theory here. You're talking about your background with the NSA. Can you just describe that for those that may not have heard that? Because you need to. For an engineer, I am really. I listen to you a lot closer because of that background.
Let's see. In 1972, I got the first one of the first degrees you can get in computer programming, and actually went to the top of the field after 2 years of training at the local university. And then I got drafted, and because I already had that experience, they let me go into what was called the National Security Agency, but I went through the Army Security Agency into the NSA, and that's the group that spies on everybody. And I wanted to be a systems analyst because that's where I was headed. That's the top of the field in those days.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
There you go.
And I had already, strangely enough, already had an associate's degree in computer programming by the time I graduated high school because I was in an accelerated program. So I went into the military and went up through the Army and trained in the Army, then went into the National Security Agency, and then worked for multi-service facilities in different places, some of which I can tell you about. I can actually, there's actually some of them I cannot mention, but the standard...
Even now?
Yeah, the standard...
All these years later?
Yeah, the standard NSA facilities I was in, I taught at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, in the NSA, and was in intercept telecommunications operations, telemetry operations, as well as communications with microwaves, and I was part of a group that helped invent quite a few things when I was in for those years. So, is that enough for you, Michael? You always get me in trouble by asking me these questions, you know.
What does telemetry mean?
Telemetry?
Yes.
That means receiving communications from usually satellites.
Okay. So it's the two-way communication with a satellite, usually.
Yes,
or
at that
anything
time.
Wireless?
Pardon me?
Because there's a lot in current version of Windows about telemetry. So it's not just radio waves. It looks like it's also digital waves now, too, right?
Anything wireless.
Okay.
Anything that can be transmitted, broadcast, and received.
So when you get a new current version of Windows, all of the telemetry features are turned on. I don't know if most people know that.
That's so that they can pick up your wireless and surveil it.
Okay.
Everything that is on the... There is nothing broadcast that is not surveilled in America. There's no such thing. The Board of Broadcasting Governors controls every single broadcast in America, and this is the big issue, and we're going to have to get to this issue in a minute because net neutrality... Let's just go to net neutrality for a second. It's the opposite. It isn't net neutral. It is for the big companies. Why did the big companies, the monopolies, who are subsidized by the government, also not have to be responsible for what is broadcast upon their sites? Only one reason. They're military to begin with. And they are exempt because they are weaponized PSYOPs experiments. So when you're working in social media every single thing you do every day is sold for people who are studying not only you, but studying how to manipulate consumers, manipulate every aspect of your life if they wish to. It's a big experiment. So I was, spying on Russia back in the old days, and they had 16 channel systems. We had 600,000 channel systems. They had pathetic telemetry communications. We had microwave communications that were impervious for spying. You couldn't spy on them. And I actually developed all kinds of things in relationship to that to give the Russians a hard time. And then I found out we were giving them our space program. We were giving them everything. We always made sure they caught up to our technology so that the fake Cold War could continue. And that's what I guess you're talking about, why I have a certain perspective to know that the United States government is in fact controlled by corporations, even the military. And even then inside of that, there's a paramilitary organization, the Senior Executive Services, that controls every federal agency. But that's getting off of 5G. Going back to Trump. Trump, this is a big backdrop you're having me paint, but Trump is only for 5G because he doesn't fully understand it, because the liars and the cheaters who said all this is good tried to convince him of that. And he is now at the last minute, when the Broadcom-Qualcomm deal was about to go through, and it came out that they were actually backed by the Chinese. They were almost 100% Chinese, and they were backed by the Chinese Communist Party. You can't do business with the Chinese Communist Party, as we demonstrated in the talk about Alibaba last night. They have clauses that say they can do whatever they want. They're not even subject to our laws. Tough luck. So, what is happening with 5G? It didn't go to space. It was going to go to space, and the Chinese were going to get the contract for the landline 5Gs.
Can I stop you again?
It's already gone to space with the contracts with Elon Musk and with Eric Schmidt.
5G, 4G, 1G, what's the difference? We are at what G right now in our wireless phones?
Well,
isn't that 4G?
Yes, but that's not the whole story.
Okay, so what's the G? Is it different frequencies? Generation.
Yeah, first generation, second generation, third, fourth, fifth. In your homes, folks, right now you probably have 5G, whether you know it or not. If you have a large house, they have to put, not boosters, they have to put millimeter transmitters, which we're talking about above microwave transmission. We're talking about millimeter transmission, and that is into realms that are far beyond what 4G was.
So most people are thinking right now, I think, you say 4G is microwave. So we're all thinking, well, if we stick our head in a microwave, that's probably not too good for us, right? Okay, so you're talking about more deadly radio waves than microwaves, which we know are not good for us if we put our hand in the microwave. So you're saying it's even how many times worse?
Well, with a microwave, you're using a contained field when you cook. With a diffuse microwave, then
contained field, meaning the box that the
yes.
microwave's in. Okay.
Yes.
With all little holes in it.
And it's all bouncing off the sides.
Okay, so it's not going through.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why it doesn't come out. And hit you, and why? But enough does come out that if you have a pacemaker, don't stand near it. But all the repeater towers for all the telephone companies have microwave on them. You are being bombarded, and you live in an ocean of diffuse microwave and higher forms of microwave, and now milliwave. And the milliwave has been put in experimentation in 3 different cities in America to see if it's going to kill all those people. Because nobody knows, all the studies now show the only thing they focus on is the kinetic energy that's created on the surface of the body. In other words, do these waves burn your skin?
Cook you.
If they don't cook you, they don't care. If it doesn't raise a blister, get over it, folks, because it gives me better internet connection. And it will. But you have to put many, many more antennas in, and you have to put them in closer proximity, and you have to create a continuum of 5G or any place you're not in 5G.
Can I stop you again?
Mm-hmm.
So why do they need to put those antennas so close together?
Because 5G is a shorter millimeter. It's a shorter
wavelength.
Shorter
right.
wavelength, and it has to be closer together to contain continuity.
Okay, so and
it won't go very far. They don't go very far.
They're pushing more energy through these smaller waves, but in order to get those to the end point, they've got to have these antennas closer together.
Yes.
In a grid?
Yes, and if it's beamed from space, from a satellite, they have what's called beam attachment technology. Once your phone connects to a 5G transmitter on a satellite, it then can become, through this beam enhancement technology, 10 to 100 times more powerful. So if you hold the phone on the opposite side of the head that the 5G is coming down from the satellite, it will beam it through your head. This has already been shown to create cancer in animals, but then 1G creates cancer in animals. Any electromagnetic frequency hitting your body is harming you. That's just a fact. And this has been known since the first days of electromagnetic frequency transmission.
Can I stop you again? When you say harm me, is it hitting my skin and then causing my skin to heat up, or what?
Each pore in your skin, because of the hair acts as an antenna. So every single electromagnetic frequency, and there's billions, literally billions of different specifically coherent, what we would call, Wi-Fi or electromagnetic broadcast frequencies on many different frequency levels, beaming through your body at all times, but they get focalized through the antenna of your own hair follicle, right into every pore of your body. But that's not bad. That's not as bad as the fact that they penetrate. They try to say it won't penetrate more than a couple inches into your body, it won't hit your organs. This is a lie, of course. It, of course, does, and it disrupts the normal biomagnetic frequency of your body.
Your nerves would certainly pick it up too, wouldn't it? After
Absolutely.
You pick it up at such a subtle level,
Right.
and that's why we developed the sigils, and we won't get into that right now, but for those of you who know what the sigils are, this is why we tell you to place them all around.
So jumping to satellites, we have approved the experimental placement of 17,000 5G satellites in space. So Trump didn't want that to happen. So notice Elon Musk, who has one of those contracts, has gone nuts. Notice that Eric Schmidt has become basically an enemy of the state, and he's not moving forward. You don't see any of these launches. Supposed to be 7,000 launches within the next 2 years. Where are they? 17,000 of them placed in space with I forget how many specific launches. They're not going up there. The localized, on-the-ground 5G that was supposed to go on practically every telephone pole in America so that you'd have complete continuity of 5G, which would then give the ability for driverless cars to work. This is all about driverless cars. That's why you need a complete continuum. It's not about higher speeds. It's about literally the new generation of cars.
And the Internet
of Things.
And remember, the reason they want the driverless cars, although it really sounds good the older I get, right? That way they can keep you from going places. It's a control mechanism, so don't buy into this freedom thing with this.
Right.
The social credit will keep you from getting in that free car, driverless car, because it won't work for you. Or you'll plug into your bank and they'll say, nope, sorry, we took all your money because you talked to Douglas Gabriel the other day and you lost all the points you had. So what is working with 5G is Trump came in at the last moment, last vote. CFIUS, the disgusting, filthy pigs on the CFIUS committee that allow foreign investment in this country that has sold out America, they should all simply be considered traitors.
Oh, you mean like Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions. I'm talking specifically about Jeff Sessions and Hillary Clinton, of course, but others. But anyway, 5G came down to the last vote, and then all of a sudden Trump said no. And the deal fell through. And they were trying to hide that China was behind the deal. And China didn't get to have what they would have had is full control, access to the Internet of Things through a pervasive continuum, every single speck of American ground, so that we could have faster phones, faster internet connection, and more fun entertainment and flashing things coming at us from digital devices.
And
So
tracking of all inventory, tracking of all movement of people, tracking of everything.
And then the Richard C. Walker Internet of Things aggressive remote control plan could work. Then they'd start putting implants in you, and then those implants would literally control you. They would be able to stop you. They would be able to literally ambulate you. These are all part of the plans. It's all been developed. It's all operative in some cities right now as an experiment.
So beyond the biological issues of 5G, we're talking about tyranny here.
Absolutely.
So we don't want the 5G for two huge reasons: what it will do to our physical body and what it does to us as citizens.
Right.
And 5G will enable your cell phone, which is a weaponized device, which the longer you use it, the more you lose the ability to have empathy for human beings, because you become a cold-hearted person trying to entertain yourself so that you can have dopamine reactions in your brain based upon cortical releases which come from digital devices, whether it be telephones, computers, cell phones. It doesn't matter. Games, they are all controlled to cause biological responses to electronic manipulation.
So let's get back to Trump and 5G. So it looked like the last news that I saw that there was some roll up here that the federal government would be in charge of 5G. What does that mean?
Well, what the story was is that Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, as always, we don't have the money to build these. Well, they wanted, of course, government subsidies. Well, Trump said, forget it. I'm not into monopolies. Look what happened with you stupid tech monopolies with Obama. You took over the world. No, we're going to control it, the federal government. And that means they're doing an experiment right now to find out if it hurts people instead of just immediately rolling it out in America, across America. Trump doesn't want to hurt the economy. He doesn't want to hurt commerce. He doesn't want to hurt these, but he's not going to have the government do what we've been doing, paying 40 to 45% for these tech companies, for our telephone companies, for the monopolies that have controlled G1, Generation 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5, and they now want to put 17,000 5G satellites in space. Eric Schmidt's not launching anything except from China. China knows that we can turn off their internet unless they have satellites.
By the way, you know who controls the certification authority for China in aerospace? Entrust.
Oh.
Hillary's Entrust.
It's the same old name, same old
Right.
players.
Years ago, I knew the people developing the satellite technology for China, and it was almost ready to be done. And this was literally decades ago when they were using pretty much military secrets that were being sold to China. And at the last minute, the United States government came in and did some fancy works and closed the company down and made sure China didn't get what they wanted a long, long time ago. Eric Schmidt promised he could do that for them by giving them the satellites that they want. Those satellites will kill people. 5G has been proven to kill everything it's near. Plants, birds, animals, insects. It harms humans. There's actually illnesses that are arising by the enhanced use of all these different new generations of electromagnetic frequency broadcasting. And the broadcasting is literally a way to not only brainwash you, but control you through devices that are worse than George Orwell ever predicted.
Can I interrupt you there? Because one of the things I'm hearing from my children is the concern of the parents now about their child's screen time. And what they're noticing is how their children, if they have too much screen time, they become insulated, they become antisocial, they become angry. And how does that relate to this? What's going on with those screens?
Well, first off, the screens, if you use them in a dark room, will make you blind. It's an epidemic in America, and it's with children particularly because they take their phones to bed, use them under the covers without their parents knowing, and this actually can cause blindness. And is anyone concerned about this? No. I've put out so many reports on this that as we were just looking with Betsy and her team, I am shocked how many reports we've written on this. And also how many other people's reports that Betsy has put on Truth News Headlines. There is no doubt what is going on here. Human intelligence is being supplanted by mechanical intelligence. And when they say there's artificial intelligence, yes, it is completely artificial. It is not human. And it's an intelligence that has no warmth of the heart and has no power of the human will. So when you use these devices, it stunts your will, doesn't it? Because you just sit there using it. You don't even look around. You stop exercising. You become obsessed. You look down. There's now neck problems they're having. We have made unbelievably long lists of the illnesses that are due directly to people, everyone, but particularly young people using cell phones. Same thing with computers And then if you get into televisions, that's subliminal programming on a massive scale. But there's also subliminal programming going on in anything you look at on a screen. Any commercial device that is being delivered to you in a commercial of any way has subliminal programming in it. So you are fighting against someone trying to take over your willpower, stunt your willpower, make you think that you're a god because you have everything in the palm of your hand. Ask a question, I know everything. I'm going to look it up on my phone. And who are you getting it through? Wikipedia, which is so slanted that if you believe that, you're going to believe what Eric Schmidt is going to tell you in the new Wikipedia, which is coming soon. So I could go into infinite detail about the illnesses that arise and the way that this is contrived from the beginning. It is to take over humans. Period. We don't need to insert Wetworks. Try to take a phone from a child. They've already inserted that phone into their brain, into their heart, into their will, and it's taken over all three.